This video is sponsored by the Ultimate Freelancing Bundle by StudyWebDevelopment.com, which gives you everything you need to start your own freelancing business, including a 130-page in-depth guide, invoicing and client proposal templates, website templates, an SEO checklist, and much more. Visit the link in the description and use the code BRAD25 to get 25% off. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my Nuxt.js crash course. So in this video, I'm going to give you what you need to get up and running with Nuxt. And we'll talk a little bit about what it is, then we'll jump into creating a small project with it. So I just have maybe 3 or 4 minutes of slides just to give you an idea of some of the advantages, some of the features that Nuxt offers. So let's talk about what Nuxt actually is. It's a framework for Vue.js, and that might seem a bit weird to have a framework for a framework, but Nuxt offers some great features that enhances the Vue.js framework, and it's actually really easy to learn as long as you're familiar with Vue. So one specific purpose is server-side rendering of Vue.js apps, and if you're familiar with Next.js, Nuxt is very similar except it uses Vue instead of React. I do have a Next.js crash course as well if you're interested in that. So as you probably know, Vue.js is a client-side framework for single-page applications, meaning that you have a single HTML file that loads everything via the client-side JavaScript. And this has a lot of advantages for really interactive and quick user interfaces. However, there are some drawbacks, and one of the biggest drawbacks is SEO. When you load a regular Vue.js app or a regular React or Angular app, everything is loaded through the JavaScript, and typically search engine crawlers, they don't wait for that loading. So they essentially see a blank HTML page. So it's not very good for SEO. Now, what Nuxt can do is it makes your application into a universal application that will preload your app on the server, which will improve SEO. Okay, it'll also load faster along with many other benefits. So with a Nuxt app, the title tag, the meta tags, all that stuff that's in the head will be there before the actual JavaScript is loaded. And Nuxt uses a library called Vue Meta to handle all the head elements on a page. And you can set defaults in the config. You can also set specific meta tags, title tags for each page that you create. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Another fantastic thing about Nuxt is routing. So with something like, let's say, PHP, when you create a PHP file and you just throw it in your web folder and you visit the URL, like let's say /about.php, it just shows up, it just works. And with Nuxt, you get that same advantage. You get a pages folder and you can create, for instance, about.vue, and you can just go in your browser and go to /about and it will just work. So there's no complicating routing setup or anything like that. It just loads the page, which is actually a Vue component, so you still have all the dynamic capabilities that you can implement within a Vue component. And again, you have full control of things like meta tags and the title of each page, which is fantastic. All right, so SEO, routing, that stuff, those are for me, the best features of Nuxt, but there are some other things that are included, other features. So with Vue.js, if you just create a regular Vue app and you want to use the Vue router or Vuex for state management or Vue Meta, you have to install all that stuff manually. You have to set it up manually. With Nuxt, it's there and it's ready to go. You just simply create a file. You can also choose between a universal app and a single page app, so you can still build your single page apps with Nuxt. It doesn't have to be universally loaded. You can use many different server-side frameworks such as Express. This stuff is built right in, so when you run the CLI and you create a new app, it'll actually ask you if you want to use Express, and then there's some other frameworks as well. You'll see I forget the exact ones, but this is easy to create a full stack application using something like Vue and Express. So that's another reason you might want to use Nuxt. You even have the choice to use a UI framework like Bootstrap. It'll just implement it right in so you don't have to set it up yourself. All right, and like I said, all this stuff is available when you generate a new project. Some other features are automatic code splitting, you have Babel transpile, minification, hot module replacement, Sass integration. All this stuff is included with the framework. And then once you're ready to build, you can simply run next generate and it will create everything that you need to deploy in a dist folder. So you can actually host it anywhere you want, including a static host like Netlify. All right, so that's it, guys. I just wanted to kind of give you the advantages of using Nuxt, tell you some of the features. Now we're going to jump in and see how it works. what we're going to do is create a simple dadjokes application using a third-party API, and we're going to implement page routing, view components, data fetching, head elements, and more. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so this is the Nuxt.js website, nuxt.js.org, and this is where you can find all the documentation, guides, examples, stuff like that. And this here is the API that we'll be using. It's kind of a silly API. It just gives you dad jokes, which are just like corny jokes. And you can see we can fetch a random joke, and it just gives us an ID and it gives us a joke. Okay, those are the two fields we'll be working with. And we can fetch a specific joke by ID, which we'll be doing on the single joke page. And then we can also get a list of jokes using the /search endpoint. And you can even add a term. So right here, if we add a term equals and then whatever. So we'll actually implement a little search box where we can search the jokes as well. Okay, so that's the API we'll be working with. So if we go to get started at nuxt.js.org, you'll see that it wants us to run create Nuxt app. Okay, so that's the generator that will create our application, and you can install it globally, but what we're going to do is use npx so that we don't have to install it, we can just run it. So I'm going to open up a terminal and just do npx create -nuxt -app, and then we want to give it a name. I'm just going to call it dadjokes. And it's going to generate our application, but it's going to ask us some questions as well. So project name, description, we'll just say lists, we'll say bad dad jokes. Okay, so it's going to ask us if we want a custom server-side framework like Express, Koa, Adonis, Happy. There's a bunch of them to choose from. This is if you want to make a full stack application. Ours is just a front-end app, so we're going to choose none. And you have some choices here. You can have PWA support, linter formatter, prettier, which I already have in my text editor. I am going to choose Axios though, because I like to use Axios to make requests as opposed to the fetch API. And then you can also choose a UI framework like Bootstrap. You can even use Vuetify, Bulma. I'm going to go with none as well. And then for test framework, I'm going to choose none, but you can choose Jest or Ava if you want. Now it's going to ask us for our rendering mode, so you can do just a standard Vue.js single page app. However, we're going to take advantage of server-side rendering and choose universal. Author name, package manager, you can use Yarn if you want. I prefer NPM. And this should generate all our files for us. Okay, so our application has been generated. We just want to cd into dadjokes. And from here, I'm going to run VS Code. And then I'm also going to run the server from here. And to do that, we do an npm run dev. All right, and it's going to start on 3000. Get these cool little graphics showing you the client and the server is loaded. And we'll go ahead and open this URL, and that's what we get. So we get this little boilerplate, just like with a standard Vue application. Okay, now I want to show both of these on the same page, so I'm just going to make that a little smaller. So first thing I want to do is just go through the folder structure here so you get a better idea of what you're working with. So the package.json is pretty simple. We just have Nuxt as a dependency. It also uses cross-env for cross-platform issues. And then Axios because we chose to install it. Now if we had chosen Express and some of the other stuff it asked, that would also be here. It also uses NodeMon for any server-side servers so that it will auto reload. And then up here you can see we have our dev script with which we just ran. We also have our build, generate, and start script. So pretty simple package.json. Let's look at store. Now store is going to be empty because this is where you're going to put your Vuex files if you choose to use Vuex. So it says creating a file in this directory will automatically activate the option in the framework. So Vuex is basically included. You just need to create your files. Now we're not going to use Vuex, so I'm not going to do anything here. But just to let you know that that's your state or your Vuex store. Static. So this is for any static files you have. And for instance, if you have like a robots.txt in this folder, it'll get mapped to just /robots.txt. So that's your static folder. You have plugins. So if you install any plugins or create any plugins, pages, this is a very important folder. This is your pages. So if you want, let's say, an about page, you could just put about.view, and I'm going to get back to this in a minute. Middleware, so if you have any middleware or you want to create any middleware, you can do that in this folder. Layouts, we have a default.view, and basically this is basically the wrapper. So right here, this Nuxt is whatever page that we're viewing. So if you want like a nav bar or header or something that you want on every single page, then you want to put it in here. And this is just like any other Vue component. You can put a script tag and stuff like that, and we're gonna do that in a little bit. Let's see, components. So basically, any components you want to insert into a page, you would put in here. And to be clear, pages are components. They're just routed components. Okay, this is for components you want to insert, such as the logo, which they have as an actual Vue component. Okay, and then assets. This is for uncompiled assets. As you can see right here, it's for like less Sass files, other JavaScript files. So that's pretty much it for the base structure of a Nuxt app. So it's not too complicated. So what I want to do is just let's clear some stuff up. Actually, you know what? Let's first create a page, because that's one of the best features of Nuxt, and I want you to see that. So in Pages, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it about.view. And if you're using VS Code, I would definitely recommend using the Viter. I think that's how you pronounce it. This right here, Viter extension, which has syntax highlighting, snippets. It allows you to use emit within templates. Definitely would suggest that if you're using VS Code. We can just do scaffold, and it will actually generate a Vue component with the template, the script, and the style. So in this about page, I want this to be very simple. I'm just going to go in the template. We're going to have a div. Now in Vue, I'm not going to go over everything about Vue.js, but real quick, you just have to have a parent element here. Like I can't do another div down here. Everything has to be within one element. So let's put an H1, and let's say about, we'll just say about dad jokes, and we'll go ahead and put a paragraph here, and let's just say this is an app that displays corny dad jokes. Okay, and then I'll just put that's it. That's all I want. Okay, now I'm going to save this, and I haven't done anything. There's no routing file or anything like that. And if I go to /about, there it is. It works. So it's similar to what you would do with like an HTML file or PHP file, where you upload it to your server and it just works. You don't have to set specific routes or anything like that. Okay, now I talked a little bit about meta tags and the head, the title, stuff like that, stuff for SEO. And what's great about this is I can go down into my script here, and I can put in a head. I can go like that, so a head method, and we can return from this. I cannot type today. Return an object, and we can put a title. And this can be dynamic. You can use some, this dot whatever if you want, for maybe a post title or something like that. But I'm just going to use about us here, or we'll say about the app, and then we can include meta as an array, and we can put any meta tags we want as an object. It takes three things: an HID, which is a unique identifier. For that, I'm going to say I want this to be the description. And then the actual meta tag, which you're going to do name, which is description. And then we want the content. So content, let's say best place for corny dad jokes. All right, so I'm going to save that. And the Viter extension will automatically make my single quotes double. So I think that's what's doing it. Maybe it's prettier. I don't know. But let's go ahead and reload this. And notice that the title now says about the app. Okay, so we have a title. If we look at the source code, you can see our titles there. And then if we look at the description, right here, content equals best place for corny dad jokes. So this is a huge advantage with Nuxt is the SEO. Okay, your titles and all that stuff will show up. And it just looks better. You know, we don't have to install any separate package or anything to have dynamic titles. All right, so that's our about page. That we can close that up. We're not going to do much more with that. Let's see. Next thing I want to do is show you within pages, you can either create the page.view, or another thing you can do is create a folder and you can call it whatever you want the page to be. I want /jokes, so I'm going to create a folder called jokes. And inside jokes, I'm going to create an index.view. And there's a reason I'm doing this, but you could do this with about. You could have a folder called about and then an index.view inside that. Or you can just call it about.view. So if I'd go ahead and scaffold right here, and for now I'll just put a div and I'll just say jokes and save, I should be able to go to /jokes and it works. Okay, and there's a reason I did that, and I'll show you in a little bit. And that reason is I want to have a single joke page as well as a list of jokes. So let's create a component now. I want to have an app header that shows on every page where we can actually have navigation between these links. So I'm going to go into components. I'm going to delete this logo.view. We no longer need that. But we're going to have to fix up the index.view real quick. Let's just get rid of this section, and this is actually going to be a very simple page. We're just going to have, let's put an H2 and we'll say welcome to the best corny dad jokes app on the web. And we don't need to bring in logo, so we don't need this. We're actually not going to have any components in here, so we can get rid of that. One thing I do want though is a head, so I'm going to copy from about. I'll just copy this whole export default, and in our index, let's just say welcome to dad jokes, and we'll just leave the same description. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to get rid of all this styling. In fact, I'll just get rid of the whole style tag and save that. And now if we go back to the index, we should just see this. Now, like I said, I want to create a header. So in the components folder, I'm going to create a file here called app_header.view. And don't call it header because you're going to have some issues just because of the header HTML5 tag. I tried that and it was giving me issues, so I just changed it to app header. So let's go ahead and scaffold a template here, or a component with a template. And in here I'm going to use a header tag with the class of header. And let's put an H1 with the class of title, and we'll just say dad jokes. So basically our logo, and then I'm going to put a UL here with the class of menu. Actually, we don't even need a class. We'll just do a UL. And then a list item. Now, this is something that is specific to Nuxt. Instead of using an A tag for a link, you want to use Nuxt-link. So it's similar to, if you're familiar with React, it's similar to you know, the link in the React router. And we're going to use a to attribute, and then let's set this to /, and this will be our home link. All right, and then I'll just go ahead and copy this down twice. Let's change this to /jokes, and let's change this to about, and we'll have /about. Okay, so that's it for the HTML. Let's go down to our script. Now, since this is a component, we have to just give it a name. We'll say app header. And then I'm going to add a little bit of styling, but I'm going to paste it in just so I don't have to waste time writing CSS. I'll just quickly go over it. Okay, so we just have our main header class. I'm displaying flex so that the logo and the menu are side by side, and then space between for justify content will push the links way over to the right. We're going to align them center, add some margin and padding, and a border. And then we just have the title, which is a little bigger, change the color. The UL will be display flex so that it displays in a row. And then for the links, we're going to just add a background, color, padding, stuff like that. All right, so that's our app header component. I'm going to save that. And where I want to put this now is in my layout. The reason for that is because I want this on every single page. So in the layout, I'm actually going to get rid of all the styling. I'm going to have some styling that I put in here, so I'm going to keep the tags. But I want to go up. Actually, let's create a script tag. We don't have one of those. So we want to export default. Now we're going to be bringing in the app header. So in components, we're going to add app header. And of course, we have to import that if we want to use it. Okay, and that's going to be up one level. Okay, and then let's stick that right above our output, right above the Nuxt, and say app header. And if we save that, now we get our header. Now there's bullet points here. There's some styling that I want to have, some global styling. So I'm going to paste that in real quick, right down here in the style. So I'll save that. Now I just want to add this div that wraps around everything. I'm going to add the class of container, which I have in the style that I just put in. Okay, so we just get this white container. So let's take a look real quick. We just added a reset. We changed the font, line height, background is going to be gray for the body, links, UL, and then the container, we have a max width of 800, added some margin auto to put it in the middle, overflow, padding, and white background. Okay, so just some basic styling. And now we have a nav bar, so I can go to jokes, I can go to about, and there was no special routes or anything. I just simply put those components or those pages in the pages folder. Okay, so let's start to deal with our jokes, because that's the main part of this application. So I'm going to, actually one thing I want to do is add, the jokes needs a head because I want to change the title. So in my jokes/index file, I'm just going to copy the head right here, and inside the jokes, paste that in, and we'll just say dad jokes. All right, now we're going to have to fetch our jokes from the API. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm guessing that you guys are familiar with Vue.js. At least if you're not, at least watch the crash course that I have, just to kind of give you an idea of how things work, lifecycle methods, stuff like that, data. So in our jokes, we want to have some data. So I'm going to add right here data. And the way this works is we just return an object with any data we want, and we're just going to have a jokes array. Okay, I'm going to put a comma here. Everything needs to be separated with a comma. Now, in order for our request to run as soon as this component loads, we're going to use a lifecycle method called created. So right here, I'm just going to say created, and we're going to make a request to our API. And we're using Axios, and we need to actually send, let's go to the search endpoint. We have to send this header value of accept application JSON. Otherwise, we're going to get back the HTML page as opposed to the JSON data. So I'm going to create a config object with a headers object. This is how we do it with Axios. And we're going to have accept, and then we're going to have content dash, what am I doing? application slash JSON. All right, and then under that config, we're going to make our request. Now, I'm actually going to make this I'm going to use a sync await here. So let's say we want this to be a sync, And then we'll go ahead and const res equals await. Await, and then make our request. So Axios dot get, and we need to get, let's see, this URL right here. So it's the /search, and we want to make sure we pass in our config as a second parameter. All right, once we do that, we should probably put this in a try catch actually. Let's do try catch. So we'll grab that and just move that up into the try, and in the catch I'm just going to do a console log of the error. All right, so once we get that, what we need to do is assign the response data to, actually I'll console log it first just so you can see what it gives us. So let's do res.data, and I'm going to save this, and it should run as soon as the component loads. So let's open up our console and see what we got. Axios is not defined, so I have to bring in Axios. Forgot all about that. So let's import Axios from Axios. And it's already included because we chose that in the beginning. And this is what we get back. So we could add pagination if we wanted to. I'm not going to get into that in this video though. You can see it has the limit, next page, previous. What we're interested in is the results. The results has the object with the ID and the joke. Okay, so what I want to do here is assign this results to this jokes data that we have, or this state, whatever you want to call this. So I'm going to say this dot jokes is going to equal res.data, and then we just want the results stored in that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that, and now we should have that available to us. So we want to output our jokes up here, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to have a joke component. So each one that displays will be a joke component. All right, so I'm going to create that. I'm going to go into components, and let's create a new file called joke.vue. So in this component, let's do a scaffold, and we're going to have a div with the class of joke, and then in here we're just going to have a paragraph with the actual joke that's passed in as a prop. All right, now we have to give this component a name, so we'll call it joke, and then any props that are going to be passed in. And props, it's going to be an array, and we're going to have a joke prop and an ID. Okay, and then for styling, I'm just going to quickly add a little bit of styling here. So just some padding and border, we'll say 1 pixel. Let's do dotted and gray. And let's do margin, 1 rem on the top and bottom. Okay, and that's it. So I'm going to save that and then go back to my jokes page, and basically I want to loop through and output a joke for each one that we have in our array. So to do that, let's keep the div, and let's put in, actually we have to bring in our component. So let's say import joke from, and we actually want to go up 2 levels, into components /joke, and we want to add that down here as a component. So let's go right here and say components and joke. Okay, so now we can go up here and we can insert it. So let's say joke. Now there's a bunch of stuff we need to add here. One, we need to loop through and show a joke for each one in the array. So we're going to use a v4 directive. We're going to say v-4 equals, let's say joke. We'll do joke in jokes. Okay, so this right here pertains to this array that's getting filled by the response. And then we also want to add a key. That's what this error is telling us. Custom elements in iteration require a vbind key, so v-bind key, which just has to be a unique value, so I'm going to use the joke ID. Now, when we use this vbind, we actually don't need this. We can get rid of that and just keep :key. All right. Now, we have two things to pass in as a prop, the joke itself and the ID. Remember, we listed those as props. So let's say we want the ID is going to equal the joke.id, and then the joke itself is going to equal joke.joke. Okay, so let's save that. And there we go. So each of these is a joke component that's getting passed in the data that's fetched from the API. All right, so next thing that I want to do here is I want to be able to click on one of these, and have it take us to a specific route, which is going to be jokes / and then the ID of that joke. So let's create a new page. Now, the way that we handle parameters like that, like say /ID, is within this jokes folder, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it _ID. Okay, and the ID pertains to the parameter. Okay, when we do / and then something, it's going to be the ID. So in here, we want to create a new file called index.view. And I know all the index.views can get a little confusing. But from within here, let's go ahead and scaffold. And let's just put a div, and for now, we'll just say single joke. And save. And now if I go to /anything, like /12, we get single joke. Now, if I want to access this parameter, I can simply access it with, we can even put it up here, and we can just use $route.params. And then the actual param, which is the ID. Save that, we get 12. Okay, if I do 1, 2, 3, we get 1, 2, 3. So we can access the parameter with this. All right, so like I said, I want to be able to click on a joke and have it take us to /ID. So I'm going to go into my joke component. Okay, so components and then joke.view. And I'm actually going to wrap this in a link. So this div right here, I'm going to wrap in a Nuxt link. Oops, should be Nuxt. And for the to attribute, I'm actually going to do :2 because this is going to be dynamic. We're going to insert a variable into this. So let's put some double quotes and then single quotes and say we want this to go to jokes / and then outside of the single quote, we want to concatenate on ID. Okay, and we want to bring all this stuff up into that. All right, so now I'll save. And now if I go over here, these are now links. And if I click on one, it goes to / and then whatever that ID is. Okay, so we can access that parameter. Now, in the single joke page, I want to make another request using the ID to get that specific joke. So let's do that. Let's close our joke component up because we should be done with that. We can close up about. We can close up that. Header, default. Yeah, all I really want is the _ID / index.view file. So within here, we're going to do, similar to what we did in the jokes where we make a request. So I'm going to bring in, let's say, bring in Axios from Axios. And let's see, we're going to have data, and we're going to return a data object with a joke, and that's going to be an object. All right, and then we want to make our request, so that's going to be in created. Okay, so this will run immediately. So I'm actually going to copy from our jokes index view this whole request right here. Yeah, this whole thing. And let's make sure we label this async and paste that in. Now the endpoint is not going to be /search. In fact, I forget what it is. Let's see. So it's going to be /j/ and then the joke ID. So what we'll do here is let's use backticks, so we can use a template literal. Change that to backticks, and then it's going to be /j and then our ID, which we can get, remember, with that route.params.id. Now, since we're down here in the created, the way that we access that is with this dot route dot params.id. If you just do route.params, it'll be undefined. So that should allow us to get that. And then down here, we're going to set this dot joke to res.data. There's not going to be a results. It's just going to be joke. Okay, as you can see right here, it shows you the response it gives you. So we want to put this into the joke. Actually, wait a second. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I guess that's fine. So let's save that, and then let's see if that actually loads. Can't resolve X. Oh, I spelled Axios wrong. Okay, so I'm going to open my console. And let's see, this isn't... Oh, I didn't console log anything. So let's actually... You know what we'll do is we'll console log this dot joke. And there we go. So we get that particular joke. So now we want to put this into the DOM. So let's get rid of the console log. And let's go up top here. I do want to have a back button. So I'm going to do a Nuxt link. And let's do 2, and we'll just set this to /jokes and say back to jokes. And then under the Nuxt link, let's put an H2, and that's where we'll put the actual joke. All right, let's see. Let's even do an HR, and then I'll put the ID. I'll do a small tag, and I'll just say joke ID, and we can go ahead and use our route.params.id. So let's save that. And there we go. So if I go back, let's go down to this one. Why was it called the Dark Ages? Because of all the nights. Okay, oh, that's very unfunny. But let's go ahead and click it, and you can see it takes us to that page, to that joke. And it's getting it from the ID right here, making the request, and then we're putting that into the DOM here. And like if we had, this isn't really a good example because we don't have like a title or anything, but if we did, we could make a dynamic title. We could put like, you know, if it was a blog post, we could put the post title in here pretty easily. So if I grab the head from one of these and go into here, and let's put this at the bottom. So for the title, I could do this dot joke and save, and you can see that now the joke is actually in the title. It's really long, so I probably wouldn't do that in a real application. It's too long, but we can do that. Okay, so you can put dynamic values here. All right, now I want to add a little search box just to extend the functionality of this a little bit. I mean, you know, this is all just Vue.js. Nuxt is really easy to learn if you already know Vue. There's just a couple extra features such as, you know, server-side rendering and SEO and stuff like that. And also if you want to build a full stack application, it makes things a little more organized. So let's create a new component. And I'm going to call this search jokes.view. All right, so search jokes is going to be a form that we can submit, and we can actually search through the jokes based on you know, snippets of text. So let's give this let's say name search jokes and some data. So for our data, we're going to return text, which is going to be a string. And up here in the template, let's create a form. And let's have an input here. So type text, and then we want to connect this to the text in the data, so we use the vModel directive for that. And we can set that to our text data. And then let's just add a placeholder. So placeholder will say search jokes. And then let's have a submit button. Okay, and then I'm just going to add an event handler up here. So I'm going to do @submit. Actually, let's do submit.prevent, which will prevent the default. And we want to set that to, let's just call this on submit. Okay, and then down here under data, I'm just going to create methods. And let's have an on submit. And what we want to do here is just emit the search text up to the parent so that we can basically filter this by whatever is in that text. So the way we do that, and this is all in my Vue crash course, but the way that we do that is with this $emit, and we'll call this search-text, and the payload that we want to send is this .text, whatever is typed in. And then we'll just set the text to empty, the text box. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that, and then we need to go where we're going to embed this, which is going to be in the jokes page. So jokes and then index view. And yeah, we're going to put this, let's bring it in first. So search jokes, we need to add it to our list of components here. Okay, and let's put this right here. So search jokes. Now remember, we're emitting something called search text, right? We're emitting an event called search text. So we're going to do v-on search-text. Then we're going to call a method called search text. Okay, so we have to add that down in our methods, which we don't have. So I'll put this right under the created. We'll say methods, which is an object, and then we'll have search text. And we'll have access to the text that is passed in. And the reason for that is in our search component, we added, in our on submit, we added this .text. So that's going to get passed in as a parameter. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so let's make sure we put a comma here. Now, within search text, I'm going to make another request. If we look at the API docs, we can just send a term. So just like this, we can do this term equals, they put hipster, but we want whatever's in our input box. So I'm going to make this async, and then I'm going to copy this config and the try catch, and I'll go ahead and put that in here, and then let's use backticks right here so we can put our term in. So we want to surround this in backticks, and we want to do search $term equals, and then we want to put in that text parameter like that, and then we just want to set the results to this .jokes just like we did up top. So let's save that, and let's go back, and you can see we now have this search box, and let's search for, let's see, we can see that this one has the word nut in it, so let's search for nut. On submit is not a function. Oh, it needs to be lowercase. All right, let's try that again. Let's go to jokes and search for nut. And there we go, another nut. So it's just going to look for any NUT in any of these jokes. Okay, if we put, let's say Y and search, we get a bunch of jokes that have the word why. All right, so hopefully you guys can see the benefit of Nuxt. I know that we did a lot of just regular Vue.js stuff, but I like to actually build something and put something together as opposed to just say, hey, this is what it does and see you later. I like to actually give you an example and give you a nice little project to follow along with. All right, guys, so that's going to be it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Also, if you could follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, I'd really appreciate that. I'm trying to build a bigger social media audience. Also, if you want to support me on Patreon, if you want to support me directly, that's greatly appreciated. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, one of the best, if not the best resource I can refer you to for starting a freelance business is at studywebdevelopment.com/freelancing. The creator Kyle shared it with me, and I can personally vouch that this bundle is well worth it. You get a 130-page guide to freelancing, and it comes with things like invoice templates, client proposals, HTML and CSS templates, a portfolio website, access to a private Facebook community, and much more. So use the code BRAD25 to get 25% off today.